There are very few things that make my blood boil quite as much as living in South Africa, seeing the ineptitude and the rundown nature of pretty much every city in South Africa, watching kids from impoverished neighborhoods and impoverished towns going to schools that are under equipped, underfunded, and oftentimes with an education system that will not provide them with an education worth the paper that it is written on. And then to watch ministers and public figures use taxpayer money to basically buy themselves very expensive trips around the world. The fact of the matter is, if you look at the South African ministers, if you look at the people within the ANC, you would think that South Africa is one of the richest countries on earth. We consistently pay people in our government way more than most other countries. In fact, the president of South Africa ranks among the richest presidents in the world, not in terms of the money that he made himself, just in terms of the salary that he receives every single month. Government ministers are paid hundreds of thousands of rands every single year just to sit in parliament and sort of make as if they're doing something, or maybe pretend, because let's be real, parliament doesn't really do anything in this country. The ANC just makes the rules and then they just steamroll right through everything else. That was at least always the case. They now have to make a couple of deals, but thanks to people like the PA and EFF and MK being in parliament, they don't have to make too many deals for their radical nonsense to pass. So ultimately, parliament is a bit of a joke, and the ministers of this country continues to get richer and richer and richer. The most recent example of this, of course, is, this isn't an ad. I'm not trying to sell you anything. All I'm asking for is that you hit the like button and maybe hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. It's literally all free. Won't cost you a thing, but it will help me. And if you don't like what I do by the end of the video, you just hit the dislike button and unsubscribe. Again, absolutely free. And then you can tell me in the comment section what an asshole I am. Enjoy the video. The Minister of South Africa spent 6 million rand on a UN trip to New York. The UN trip, well, that was for some women nonsense. That doesn't change anything because the UN is an organization with no ability to implement anything. The UN could decide, hey, we're going to give women more rights, and nothing happens because they don't actually have the ability to enforce anything. They're not an organization with any enforcement capabilities. But anyway, South Africans are outraged that more than 6 million taxpayer money is reportedly being used to fund a trip for ministers and their entourages to New York, USA. Ministers and their departments have been instructed to keep trips and costs to a minimum due to budgetary constraints, but these guidelines appear to have been ignored. According to Times Live, an 82-person delegation attended the 69th session of the UN Commission on the Status of Women in the City in March, where they stayed more than 2 weeks and racked up a hefty bill. The Department of Social Development spent more than 3 million on the trip. The Department of Women, Youth and People with Disabilities spent 2 million for 5 representatives, in the Department of Higher Education, 1.6 million for the same number of delegates. In the spotlight was the newly appointed Deputy Director General for Welfare Services, Sizakele Magangu, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, who seemed to celebrate her new job by spending more than 1 million rand. Her bill included stays at one of the city's most expensive hotels and flights costing almost 200,000 rand. This, of course, comes in the midst of South Africa's economy burning down. Glencore has become the newest company to announce that they will be laying off people, and according to the government, this now puts the number of jobs lost in the last 2 days at 6,000. 6,000 jobs have been lost in the last 2 days alone. That is ArcelorMittal basically laying off thousands of people, and now Glencore is starting to lay off thousands of people as well. And the company says that this is because of exceptionally high power prices and difficult market conditions. In other words, the ANC is firmly to blame for the fact that we cannot keep employing people. But the ANC is spending 6 million rand going on a trip, a little field trip, where they get to spend money in one of the richest or most expensive cities in the world, living in some of the most expensive hotels in the world, and I can already guarantee you most of this money was spent on booze, alcohol, and probably drugs as well. Who knows, right? They must be high. It's not just that. Here you have another scandal that's impacting the government, how 1.2 billion rand was just stolen from the pension fund of the government. And while Treasury has now taken over the pension fund, at some point the Treasury will give back the pension fund, and then they'll just continue stealing because that's just how it works. Here you have doctors in KwaZulu-Natal, for example, saying that they can no longer keep up the amount of budget cuts that they're experiencing, and doctors leaving, nurses leaving because they're no longer being paid. But we have 6 million rand for a 2-week little trip. How many doctors do you think you could pay for how long with 6 million rand? I would argue quite a few, for quite a bit. Nurses, probably more. 1.2 billion? That's a lot of money. You could probably get away with at least a year of keeping a hospital well staffed if you didn't waste that money. The point is, the government is far too busy actually hunting down people who speak to the newspapers. Here you have a whistleblower, witch hunt. The State Pensions Agency is paying investigators. Remember, this is the guys who just stole 1.2 billion rand, but they're now paying investigators to find out who the sources were that spoke to News 24. So while the government, right, is spending 6 million rand for a 2-week little trip to New York City for 83 people, it should never cost 6 million for that many people. I don't understand why ministers require special security, why they require special anything. You guys own subs. The South African Police Service, if it is good enough to defend and protect South Africans, it should be good enough to defend and protect you. If it isn't, you should fix it. I think we should get rid of your special little blue light brigades and your special little security guards. You get the police. And if you're not safe with the police, that's a you problem, because the rest of us have to pay out of pocket to get special security. So you should be able to do the same. You're already being paid like millionaires. You may as well do your own payments for your own security. But effectively, the Hawks are too busy investigating people like Andrew Taylor because he made fun of Mukunu. We're going after the people shining a light on the criminality in this country, and yet we refuse to go after the actual criminals in this country. The government ministers, the president, the ANC. The ANC, all of the ANC should be behind bars. They should all be locked up, and they should be investigated. I'm not saying all of them are criminals, but a lot of them are, right? I am almost willing to bet that a lot of them, if you had a full-blown independent investigation, the entirety of the ANC would be locked up, and then they should be charged for with treason because they did effectively sell out the South African public. This is where we are, right? This is the joke that is our country, and it's not going to get any better, as these ministers have seemingly not woken up to the realities of our country. They have not realized that this is a country in distress, and it needs a firm hand and direction. Instead, they're off spending money as if it's 1998 and there's still money to actually be spent. We have a country that sits with a massive budgetary deficit. In other words, we're spending way more than what we're already making. 7 million taxpayers, not even, but just about 7 million taxpayers paying 90% of all taxes. 1,000 companies paying over 90% of all corporate taxes in the country. And now you have companies literally firing people 6,000 in 2 days. And the government continues to spend money as if there is just always going to be more. This is a problem, and it's going to become a worse problem soon. And it doesn't seem like our government gives a crap, which should make you wonder, are they still fit to lead? And do we actually need a motion of no confidence and a new election right now? Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think South Africa needs a new election? And if we got one, who would you vote for? I'd love to read your thoughts. As you know, if you like what I do and you think more people should have access to my channel, please consider hitting the like button, hitting that subscribe button, and leaving a comment, because it really does help. Engagement is king. Massive shout out and thank you to all of the patrons, the YouTube members, for your continued support on this channel. Thanks to you, it allows me to do what I do without fear of, making clickbait or making videos that people may not want to click on. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.